Alright guys, time for a quick update since, well, a lot has happened. I remembered to put a center cap on my wheel over here, is a nice thing. And we plasmaed out the fender over there so the turbo would fit obviously, and painted most of the engine bay black. And I threw in the motor only, and a couple of other things like this rad I had laying around from Fairmont 4, the black one, and I threw on my 5.3 and the truck intake to make sure everything would clear, and tossed on the Reiner's turbo kit down in there, the 2 wastegates, and the China 88mm turbo. Tossed it all in there to mock everything up and make sure everything would fit and do whatever else I had to do. So it's neat. Everything else is in there, and you can see one thing that I did is it was tucking the wheel more than that without the weight of the motor in it. So just for fun, I cranked the coil up about halfway, and I get a lot of questions, so I'll just say that these are AJE K-member mounts, coilovers, A-arms, and I bought 14-inch, 170-pound springs, I believe. I may have to double check that to be totally right, but wanted to make sure like the truck intake and other things would clear, because I planned on pulling the motor back out and doing valve springs and attaching the transmission and some other stuff and tossing it back in. So I just wanted to see how the turbo and some other things would fit. That is the VS Racing 8883. It's a old Precision PT88 clone. So it has an 83 compressor and an 83 turbine, T4, which is cool, and a 4-inch exhaust. And what's neat is we put a sticker on here and spray painted over it, and my girlfriend peeled the stickers off and everything, and it leaves a nice patinaed, rusted background in there. And then what's cool also is I didn't even need to cut. Sometimes the hood gets pretty close to the intake and you need to cut like the supports out, like on the 240. Let me, hope I don't make you nauseous here with the, but I don't want to latch it. Well, screw it, I can latch it. It won't hurt anybody's feelings. Pretty neat. Hood closes nice and neat, and then my neighbor and I moved the hood latch too. Pop the hood back open. It is cool to see. Let me just make you motion sick again with the doing the hood with my other hand. It is really awesome to have the truck intake on here because it saves you big time. You can do it either way. I see it now why some people do it. If you think about it economically, the truck intake here has the regulator and the return and everything built into it, and they're almost free. People are basically throwing them out. Easy to get, cheap even if you do have to buy them. Everything else swaps over. You can just run the fuel lines up. Shit, if you have fuel lines in your engine bay, you can clamp them on there and it'll feed and return, no problem. If you put the motor higher in the stock K member, you basically got to buy an LS1 intake, which anymore all you can do is, even with the 240, totally bare intake. No gaskets, no fuel lines, no throttle body, nothing at all. It's crazy. So you're spending $400 plus to get the intake and all the accessories. Even if you're buying cheap shit, you got to get a regulator because almost all of them don't have a fuel rail, and if you buy rails, you need to put a regulator on it. I mean, you know, I can go on for a long time, but the K-member and mounts is pretty cheap. It's like $275 for the K-member, and then the engine mounts are like $45. And I mean, if you really don't want to fuck around too much, you can just bolt this K in, and it's awesome how far it puts the motor in and back. And even though I like building everything myself, it is cool for once to just bolt a bunch of stuff in. Man, it's pretty dark in there. It's pretty neat to see. But then my buddy, let me get a flashlight here for you dudes. My buddy Reiner's, I'm in Allentown, Pennsylvania, and my buddy is in South Dakota, built this turbo kit. It's a 2-inch hot side. It bolts, he always makes it so that it bolts into the 3-bolt truck manifolds. He doesn't like to cut them and V-band them. He says there would be too many alignment issues, which I agree, if he's making it that far away, just to leave the 3-bolt flanges on. And then this is a 2-inch. He makes his own cone, basically, that goes from like the 2 and 4.8-inch outlet, and it cones down to 2-inch to keep the velocity up. And you can see the left side one here, well, there's a V-band in the center here, and then a 44 millimeter eBay V-band gate that goes up into the one side, and then this one just hooks and goes up into this side. Now this turbo does not have a divided inlet, but if I switch to a Borg Warner, the twin scroll part of the turbo kit will work out very nicely. So you can also see that I filled the holes in the firewall, except for the one way down here I'm going to leave open to pass everything down through into the starter and run the engine harness around the back here nicely. So that is it for now. At least you can see all that as part of the update. Can't see much from here, at least on my screen. Looks like ain't much going on. But it's awesome, to say the least, to see all of that stuff coming together. And then I'm going to use this hoist here and pull the rest of that shit out and put the transmission on and do whatever else. And really, as part of like an overview of what I need is the battery and the wiring are pretty much done in the car. I need to get a shifter for a TH400, which is down in here. That's my 400 and converter and everything. My buddy is cutting the pan now. Actually, he's done welding it. If you're on Sloppy Mechanics Facebook page or the other pages, he has already welded it. He's doing the pickup tube, and then we're going to put a drain on it, and then I can pull the motor back out and put the cut oil pan on, because with this K-member, the oil pan hangs down fairly low below the K-member, so he's gonna slice the truck K-member because that's free for him to do it for me as a favor. So that's cheaper than $200 for another oil pan. And oil pan, fuel lines need to get done. I think I'm gonna run a 1/2-inch fuel line so I never have to do it again. I have -6. In this blue bin here, I have -6 that was on the black car that went from the tank all the way up front and back. So I'll probably use the -6 for the return and buy a 1/2-inch hose for the feed. And then I have a Holley 1800 double fuel pump here that I can wire up, which that'll probably surprise the shit out of some of you if you hadn't seen that. But I got a good price on a giant Holley pump, so I'll put a 1/2-inch feed on this pig, you know, shifter, then only little stuff, measure for the drive shaft basically, put the 8.8 rear in, which is all done. Northern race cars. Disc brake kit, 355s from the junkyard. Moser axles. Explorer center section, because Mustang center section is 28 spline. And then I welded all the open diff spider gears together, so now it's a posi. So that guy's got to go in, and once that's in, you know, measure for drive shaft, put the drive shaft in, and then what's cool is basically I can bump the key and start it and drive it. So make sure all my stuff is in a row before then. Oh yeah, I totally forgot, I don't have an intercooler or piping. Well, I have piping out the ass here. Maybe I have enough to get it done, but more importantly what I need is the 375 to 3-inch, because I'm going to run 3-inch intercooler piping and some other stuff. I have a water pump, I have some other stuff. Everything else is ready to go, just little stuff, you know, and that's it. Then she'll be ready to go.